The pounding bass of the disco lights up the night, a world away from the vows we exchanged years ago. I'm standing in the parking lot, my car idling, the faint throb of the nightclub's music pulsing through the windshield. My gut tells me this isn't just another girl's night out for Laura, my wife. Something feels off. Too many late nights. Too many hushed phone calls. Tonight, I'll find out. I adjust my jacket, a thin attempt to ward off the chilly night air. My mind races, a storm of emotions swirling as I step out of the car. With each step toward the entrance, I feel the weight of doubt, anger, and betrayal bearing down on me. My friend Mike told me last week that he saw her here with another man. I didn't believe him. I couldn't. But now I need to know the truth. Inside, the club is a kaleidoscope of lights and bodies. The air is thick with sweat and perfume, the energy electric. I scan the crowd, my eyes darting from face to face, searching for her familiar silhouette. Then, I see her, Laura, my wife, the woman I vowed to love and cherish. She's not alone. She's sitting at a table in the corner, leaning in close to a man I don't recognize. He's younger, cocky, with a smirk that sets my blood boiling. They're laughing, her hand resting lightly on his arm. Every fiber of my being screams at me to storm over there, to demand answers. But I hold back. This needs to be handled carefully, strategically. I pull out my phone, capturing a quick photo of the two of them. It's not enough to confront her with words. Those can be denied. I need proof. As the night wears on, I keep a low profile, moving between the bar and the crowd, always keeping them in my sight. They eventually get up, weaving through the throng of people, heading toward the back exit. My heart pounds as I follow, careful to stay a few paces behind. The alley behind the club is dimly lit, the scent of trash and damp concrete hanging in the air. I watch as they laugh, the man pulling her closer. I grip my phone tighter, snapping more photos as he leans in, his lips brushing against hers. My world crumbles in that instant, but I hold it together. This isn't the time to confront them. Not yet. Back in my car, I review the photos, my hands trembling. The evidence is clear. She's been lying to me, betraying me. But this isn't the end. It's just the beginning. If she wants to play games, she's chosen the wrong opponent. The drive home feels like an eternity. My knuckles grip the steering wheel so tightly it feels like the leather might rip. The photos are burned into my mind, and I'm cycling through 1,000 scenarios, each angrier and more vengeful than the last. But rage alone isn't enough. If I'm going to confront Laura, I need a plan. Something that will shake her to her core and leave her no room for excuses. I pull into the driveway, the house eerily quiet. Her car isn't there yet, and I have time to prepare. I sit at the kitchen table, phone in hand, transferring the photos to my laptop. Each click of the mouse feels like a nail in the coffin of our marriage. But this isn't about mourning what's lost. It's about justice. When Laura finally comes home, it's past midnight. She smells of cheap cologne and sweat, a stark contrast to the woman I thought I knew. She freezes in the doorway when she sees me sitting there, the laptop open in front of me. My eyes lock onto hers, and for a moment, I see a flicker of panic. Good. She knows what's coming. You're home late, I say, my voice calm but edged with steel. She hesitates, her hand still on the doorknob. Yeah, it was a long night with the girls. You know how they are, always wanting one more drink. I nod slowly, my gaze never leaving her face. Funny thing, I say, turning the laptop toward her. Mike mentioned he saw you out tonight. Thought I'd swing by and see for myself. Imagine my surprise when I didn't find you with your girls. Her eyes widen as she takes in the photos on the screen. She stammers, her voice shaky. I can explain. Save it. I cut her off, my tone ice cold. Explain what? That you've been sneaking around behind my back? That you think I'm too stupid to notice? Tears well up in her eyes, but I'm not moved. It's not what it looks like, she pleads. He's just a friend. We were a friend? I scoff, standing and towering over her. Do friends kiss in dark alleys? Do they hold hands at candlelit tables? Don't insult my intelligence, Laura. She's silent, her eyes darting around as if searching for an escape. But there's nowhere to run. Not tonight. Here's how this is going to go. I say, my voice firm and deliberate. You're going to pack a bag and leave. Right now. I'll be contacting a lawyer first thing in the morning, and trust me, you'll be hearing from them soon. Her jaw drops, and she steps forward, reaching for my arm. Wait, please, can we talk about this? It was a mistake, just one night. It won't happen again. I pull back, my eyes narrowing. No, Laura, it's over. You made your choice when you walked out that door tonight. Now you'll live with the consequences. Her tears flow freely now, but I feel nothing but cold resolve. As she stumbles toward the bedroom to gather her things, I sit back down at the table, the weight of the night pressing on me. This is just the start of my plan. She might think leaving is the worst of it, but she has no idea what's coming next. The door slams shut behind her as she leaves, her hurried footsteps echoing down the driveway. I sit in the quiet house, my pulse finally starting to settle. It's a strange mix of emotions. A tinge of sadness, sure, but mostly cold satisfaction. She's gone, but this isn't over. Not by a long shot. The first thing I do is pull out my phone and call Mike. He picks up on the second ring, his voice groggy. Man, it's late. What's going on? I need a favor, I say, skipping pleasantries. Remember that private investigator you used when your ex-wife was pulling her crap? I need his number. There's a pause, and then Mike's voice sharpens. Oh, hell. What happened? She's been cheating, Mike. Caught her red-handed tonight. Now I'm going to make sure there's no way she can weasel out of this when we get to court. Mike doesn't ask for more details. He's been my best friend since college, and he knows when I mean business. I'll text you his number. He's good, expensive, but worth it. Minutes later, I have the contact information in hand. I fire off an email to the investigator, explaining my situation and attaching the photos I took. The message is short but clear. I want a full account of Laura's activities. Phone records, financial statements, surveillance, the works. If she's been this brazen, who knows how far this rabbit hole goes. The next morning, I'm at my lawyer's office as soon as it opens. Karen Cross is a shark, a no-nonsense divorce attorney with a reputation for tearing apart cheaters in court. I lay everything out for her, from the photos to Laura's tearful pleas the night before. Karen listens intently, jotting down notes. You've got a solid case, she says, her tone professional. The photos alone are damning, but we'll need more to make sure this goes in your favor. Spousal support, division of assets. It's all going to depend on how much dirt we can dig up on her. I nod, my resolve hardening. I've already got a PI on it. He'll have everything we need. Good, Karen says, standing and extending her hand. Let me know as soon as you have more. In the meantime, don't engage with her directly. Everything goes through me now. The next few days are a whirlwind. The investigator works fast, uncovering a trail of deceit that stretches back months. Credit card charges for hotels, late-night withdrawals from ATMs, and a series of text messages that leave no doubt about her affair. It's worse than I imagined. She wasn't just with one guy, there were at least three. The anger I feel is a cold, calculated thing now. This isn't just about betrayal anymore. It's about justice, about making sure she doesn't walk away from this unscathed. The final piece of the puzzle falls into place when the PI delivers a video. A grainy clip from a hotel parking lot showing Laura and one of her lovers, laughing as they head inside. It's the nail in the coffin. I forward everything to Karen, who assures me this will be more than enough to turn the tide in my favor. Then comes the call I've been waiting for. I've filed the papers, Karen says, her voice clipped. She'll be served by the end of the week. Be ready for her reaction. It's not going to be pretty. I lean back in my chair, a grim smile on my face. I've been ready for this since the night I caught her. Let her scream and cry all she wants. She did this to herself. When the papers are served, the fallout is immediate. Laura shows up at the house, pounding on the door, her voice shrill and panicked. I don't answer. Instead, I sit in the living room, sipping my coffee, listening to her plead and threaten in turns. Eventually, she gives up and drives off, her tires screeching as she tears out of the driveway. I know this is just the beginning, but for the first time in weeks, I feel like I'm back in control. The plan is in motion, and Laura has no idea just how far I'm willing to go to make her pay for what she's done. The silence after Laura's dramatic exit is almost deafening. I sit in the living room, letting the stillness wash over me. This is my house now. She's not going to barge in and twist the narrative. The evidence I've gathered will make sure of that. I glance at my phone, multiple missed calls and text messages from Laura, each one more frantic than the last. We need to talk, please. I made a mistake. Let me explain. You can't just throw me out like this. I don't respond. Instead, I forward the messages to Karen. It's all part of the game now. Every move she makes is ammunition for court, and I intend to use it. By the time Friday rolls around, the court documents are filed, and Laura's officially served. I'm at work when my phone buzzes. It's a text from Mike. Dude, you need to see this. Attached is a link to Laura's social media. Against my better judgment, I click it. The post is a long, rambling message about how she's been wronged, how I'm controlling and emotionally abusive, and how she just needed one night to feel alive again. The comments are a mix of support and skepticism, but the damage is done. She's painting herself as the victim. I shake my head, a bitter laugh escaping my lips. Nice try, Laura, I mutter. She's trying to control the narrative, but she doesn't realize I've already won the war. The next day, the private investigator drops off his final report. It's a thick folder filled with damning details, receipts, text logs, and more videos. The most explosive revelation? She's been siphoning money from our joint account to fund her escapades. Thousands of dollars, gone. Karen's office feels like a war room when I hand her the folder. She flips through the pages, her eyes lighting up with every new discovery. This is gold, she says, her tone almost gleeful. With this, we can not only ensure you keep the house, but we can go after her for fraud. She won't see a dime of your money. I nod, my resolve solidifying. Good. I want her to feel every consequence. Karen leans back, tapping her pen against her desk. We'll push for a court date as soon as possible. In the meantime, keep everything professional. Don't engage with her, no matter what she says or does. That evening, I sit in the empty house, a glass of whiskey in hand. The once shared space feels different now, more like mine. I think about the years I spent trying to make our marriage work, all the sacrifices I made for someone who didn't value them. The anger simmers, but it's no longer a fire. It's a cold, determined resolve. When the court date finally arrives, Laura's facade crumbles. She shows up with a cheap lawyer, clearly unprepared for the mountain of evidence Karen has compiled. The judge takes one look at the folder and frowns. This is extensive, he says, flipping through the pages. Mrs. Bennett, do you have anything to say in your defense? Laura stammers, her usual confidence replaced by desperation. He's exaggerating. This isn't what it looks like. Karen steps in, her voice sharp and commanding. Your Honor, the evidence speaks for itself. Mrs. Bennett not only engaged in repeated infidelity, but also committed financial misconduct. We request full asset control for my client and immediate divorce proceedings. The gavel slams down, and just like that, it's over. Laura is left with nothing but her excuses. As I walk out of the courtroom, the weight on my shoulders feels lighter. Justice has been served, but this isn't just about punishment. It's about reclaiming my life. The courtroom's heavy doors close behind me, but the echoes of Laura's desperate protests linger. Outside, the air feels fresher, lighter. The sun seems brighter than it has in weeks. For the first time in what feels like forever, I can breathe. Karen walks beside me, her heels clicking against the marble floor. Well, that went better than expected, she says, a faint smile tugging at her lips. She folded faster than I thought she would. She didn't have a choice, I reply. The evidence was airtight. Karen nods. True, but people like her, they're slippery. Sometimes they'll spin something out of nothing just to drag things out. You did good by staying calm and letting the evidence do the talking. Her words stick with me as I drive home. Staying calm wasn't easy. The temptation to lash out, to let anger take over, had been there every step of the way. But I kept my composure. Laura had been banking on me losing it, giving her something to use against me. Instead, she ended up being the one caught off guard. At home, I pour myself another whiskey, this time a celebratory one. I sit on the porch, the evening breeze brushing against my face. My phone buzzes, and I glance at the screen. Another message from Laura. I hesitate for a moment before opening it. I know you hate me, but can we please talk? Just one conversation? For closure. Closure. The word feels hollow coming from her. But instead of deleting the message, I forward it to Karen. No matter how tempted I might be to respond, I'm not letting her pull me back into her web. The next few weeks are a blur of finalizing paperwork and dividing assets. Thanks to Karen, the house is officially mine, along with the majority of our savings. Laura's financial misconduct ensured that her pleas for spousal support were laughed out of court. She moves into a small apartment on the other side of town, her flashy lifestyle reduced to a shadow of what it once was. I focus on rebuilding. The house gets a fresh coat of paint, the furniture rearranged, the memories of our life together slowly erased and replaced with something new. Mike comes over one weekend with a six-pack, helping me tear down the old garden she insisted on planting but never tended to. It feels good to reclaim the space. You know, Mike says as we crack open our beers, you handled all this a hell of a lot better than I would have. I shrug. It wasn't easy, but letting her drag me down with her? That would have been worse. He raises his can in a toast. Here's to fresh starts. We clink cans, the sound crisp and satisfying. For the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm on solid ground. But just when I think the storm has passed, Laura throws one last curveball. It happens on a quiet Friday evening. I'm sitting on the couch, scrolling through Netflix, when my phone buzzes. It's a text from an unknown number. Hey, you think you've won? Watch your back. My blood runs cold. The message is cryptic, but the implication is clear. Laura isn't done. She might have lost in court, but she's not letting go. I sit there for a moment, my mind racing. Is this another desperate ploy for attention, or something more sinister? Either way, it's time to be prepared. I forward the message to Karen and the PI, instructing them to keep tabs on her. If she's planning something, I'll know about it. The cryptic message gnaws at me all night. My rational side tells me it's just Laura trying to rattle me, desperate to regain some form of control. But the tone of the text is unsettling enough to keep me on edge. I forward it to Mike as well, knowing he'll have some insight, or at least some colorful commentary. Dude, she's unhinged, Mike says when he calls the next morning. She's like a wasp you just swatted. Annoyed, angry, and stinging everything in sight. Don't let her freak you out. I'm not freaked out, I reply, though my tone says otherwise. I just want to make sure this doesn't escalate. If she's planning something, Mike cuts me off. She's not. She's bluffing. People like her, they hate losing, but they don't have the guts to actually follow through on their threats. Just keep your cool. I wish I could dismiss it as easily as Mike does. But something about Laura's recent behavior doesn't sit right. She's unpredictable now, cornered. People in that state can do stupid, dangerous things. I decide to take precautions. The PI advises me to install cameras around the house, and I don't hesitate. By the end of the weekend, there's a security system in place, complete with motion sensors and a camera that streams directly to my phone. I also change the locks, just in case. The days that follow are quiet. Laura doesn't call or text again, and part of me starts to believe Mike was right. Maybe the message was just a final jab, a way to leave me unsettled. But then, on Thursday night, something happens that changes everything. I'm in the kitchen, cleaning up after dinner, when my phone buzzes with an alert from the security system. Someone's at the front door. My stomach tightens as I grab my phone and pull up the live feed. It's her. Laura stands on the porch, her face pale and drawn. She's holding something in her hands, a box, wrapped in plain brown paper. I watch as she places it on the ground, her eyes scanning the house. For a moment, it looks like she's about to ring the bell, but she stops, shaking her head. Instead, she turns and walks away, disappearing into the night. I stare at the screen, my pulse racing. What the hell was that? The box sits there, innocuous yet ominous. Every instinct tells me to leave it alone, to call the police. But curiosity gets the better of me. Grabbing a flashlight, I step outside, the cool night air biting at my skin. The box feels heavier than it looks, and I carry it inside with care, placing it on the kitchen table. For a long moment, I just stare at it, debating whether to open it or call for backup. In the end, I grab a knife and carefully cut through the tape. Inside is a single envelope, resting on a bed of shredded paper. No ticking, no strange smells, just the envelope. My hands tremble slightly as I open it. The letter inside is written in Laura's familiar handwriting, the words hurried and uneven. You think you're the victim, but you're not innocent. I've kept quiet for too long, but I won't anymore. Everyone will know who you really are. My grip tightens on the paper. The words are vague, but the thread is clear. She's planning to smear me, to drag my name through the mud. But with what? What could she possibly have on me? As I sit there, the weight of the box still pressing on my chest, I realize one thing. The fight isn't over. Not yet. I stare at the letter for what feels like an eternity, the words etched into my mind. Everyone will know who you really are. The phrase loops in my head like a broken record. What does she think she has on me? What could she possibly use to turn the tables? The shredder hums in the corner of my office as I destroy the letter, piece by piece. I'm not letting her get into my head. If she wants to play dirty, she's going to find out I can play smarter. I send a quick email to Karen, explaining what happened and attaching a copy of the letter I scanned before destroying it. Let the professionals handle this. The next morning, Karen calls me, her tone calm but sharp. This is a classic move. She's trying to intimidate you, hoping you'll panic and slip up. She's not just bluffing, Karen, I reply. She's up to something. She's dangerous. She's desperate, Karen corrects. Desperate people make mistakes. That's when we catch them. I trust her judgment, but the knot in my stomach doesn't ease. I spend the day combing through my life, trying to think of anything Laura might twist into ammunition. Old arguments? Business deals? Every skeleton I thought was buried feels like it's rattling its chains. Then it hits me, our finances. Before things fell apart, Laura had full access to our accounts. She could have doctored something, left a trail that implicates me. I pull up my bank records, combing through every transaction. Nothing stands out, but that doesn't mean she hasn't planted a trap. I send everything to Karen and the PI, asking them to dig deeper. If there's anything out of place I need to know, I tell them, even if it's something small. That night, another alert from the security system jolts me awake. This time, it's not Laura. It's someone in a dark hoodie, skulking around the side of the house. My heart pounds as I pull up the camera feed, but the figure stays in the shadows, their face obscured. They don't try to enter, just linger, like they're scouting the place. I call the police immediately, reporting the intruder. By the time they arrive, the figure is long gone, but they take a report and promise to increase patrols in the area. It feels like a hollow reassurance. Whoever it was, they'll be back. The next morning, Mike drops by unannounced, his usual grin replaced by a serious expression. "You've got to watch your back, man," he says, pacing in my kitchen. She's unhinged. What if that was her last night? Or someone she sent? I thought about that, I admit. But why send someone to skulk around when she knows I have cameras? It doesn't make sense. None of this makes sense. Mike snaps. She's lost, man. She's trying to scare you, make you paranoid. It's working, I mutter, rubbing my temples. But I'm not going to give her the satisfaction. I double down on security, upgrading the cameras and installing floodlights around the property. Every step I take feels like a chess move, countering her increasingly erratic behavior. But the sense of unease lingers, a shadow I can't shake. A few days later, the PI calls with news. "We found something in the financial records," he says. "It's subtle, but it's there. Transactions in your name, but they don't match your usual patterns. We're looking into where the money went." My grip tightens on the phone. "You're saying she's setting me up?" "Looks like it," he replies. "Don't worry, though. We'll trace it back to her. Just sit tight." Sitting tight is easier said than done. Every day feels like a waiting game, the tension ratcheting higher with each passing hour. Then, one night, it happens. Another alert from the cameras. This time, the figure is at the front door. I watch as they place an envelope under the doormat and disappear into the night. When I retrieve it, my breath catches. It's another letter. This one shorter, but just as chilling. Check the news tomorrow. You'll see what I mean. I stand there, the paper trembling in my hand. Whatever she's planning, it's about to come to light. I don't sleep that night. The letter sits on the kitchen table, the weight of its message hanging heavy in the air. Check the news tomorrow. The words are vague, but the thread is clear. Laura is about to go public with whatever twisted narrative she's cooked up. At dawn, I'm glued to the television, flipping through channels, searching for any mention of my name. Nothing yet. I check online, scrolling through local news sites and social media, my heart pounding with every refresh. Still nothing, but I know it's coming. The PI calls around noon. His voice is calm, but there's an urgency beneath it. We've traced the transactions, he says. She's been funneling money into an account under a fake name. Looks like she's trying to frame you for embezzlement. My stomach churns. Embezzlement? It's not just a smear campaign. It's a criminal accusation. If she can sell this story, it won't just ruin my reputation. It could destroy my life. We've got evidence to counter it, the PI continues. Bank statements, digital footprints. It's clear the account is hers, not yours. But if she's already leaked this to the press, we'll need to act fast. I hang up and immediately call Karen. Her tone is sharp and decisive. We need to get ahead of this, she says. Draft a statement, compile the evidence, and prepare for damage control. If she's going to the media, we'll hit back harder. By late afternoon, the first headline pops up online. Local businessman under investigation for financial misconduct. My blood runs cold as I click the link. The article is vague, citing anonymous sources and hinting at improper use of funds. My name isn't mentioned directly, but the details are specific enough to make it clear who they're talking about. The comments section is already filling with speculation, some defending me, others jumping to conclusions. I call Karen again, my voice tight with anger. She's playing dirty, Karen. She's using the media to spin her story. We expected this, Karen replies. But she's sloppy. The evidence we have will discredit her claims. Let her dig her own grave. That evening, the doorbell rings. It's Mike, carrying a six-pack and a look of grim determination. Thought you might need this, he says, setting the beer on the counter. I nod, cracking one open. She's really going for it, Mike. The press, the fake accounts. She's throwing everything she has. Mike leans against the counter, his expression dark. She's desperate, man. But desperate people make mistakes. You've got the upper hand. Don't forget that. As we sit in the living room, the weight of the situation starts to sink in. Laura isn't just trying to hurt me. She's trying to destroy me. But she doesn't realize that every move she makes is bringing her closer to her own downfall. The next day, Karen's team goes into overdrive. They contact the media, presenting the evidence that clears my name and exposes Laura's scheme. Within hours, the narrative begins to shift. Articles start popping up with headlines like, New evidence clears local businessman in misconduct case, ex-wife's scheme exposed. A shocking tale of deceit, Laura's name is dragged into the spotlight, her lies unraveling in real time. The public turns on her, the same people who were quick to judge now calling her out for her manipulations. It's a small victory, but it feels like the tide is finally turning. That evening, my phone buzzes with a text from an unknown number. You'll pay for this. I stare at the message, my jaw tightening. She's not done. Not yet. The text feels like a final warning, a desperate cry from someone who knows they're losing. You'll pay for this. But I've come too far to let Laura intimidate me. Her games have only fueled my resolve. I forward the text to Karen and the PI, making sure it's documented. She's escalating. I tell them, what's our next move? Karen responds within minutes. Stay calm. Don't engage. She's trying to provoke you. If she crosses a legal line, we'll handle it. The PI is equally calm but more direct. Keep everything on record. If she tries anything physical, call the police immediately. That night, I can't shake the feeling that something big is coming. Laura has lost the court case. Her public smear campaign has backfired, and now she's lashing out with cryptic threats. She's cornered, and I know she won't go down quietly. At midnight, my phone buzzes again, this time with a call. It's from another unknown number. I hesitate before answering, half expecting to hear Laura's voice on the other end. But it's not her. It's a man. You think you've won, don't you? His voice is low, menacing. You don't know what she's capable of. I sit up, my heart pounding. Who is this? I demand, my voice steady despite the adrenaline surging through me. Just someone who knows what's coming, the man replies before the line goes dead. I stare at the phone, my mind racing. Who the hell was that? A friend of Laura's? Someone she's hired? The implications are unsettling. I call the PI immediately, recounting the conversation. He reassures me that his team will look into it, but the unease lingers. The next day, I notice something odd. My car, parked in the driveway, has a long scratch running down the side. At first, I think it's just a random act of vandalism, but then I see the faint outline of words etched into the paint. Liar. I stand there, staring at the damage, my jaw clenched. This isn't random. It's a message, and it's personal. Laura, or someone working for her, did this. I snap photos and call the police, filing a report. The officer takes notes, his expression neutral but sympathetic. Do you have any idea who might have done this? He asks. I nod. I've got a pretty good idea. As the officer drives away, I feel the weight of the situation pressing down on me. This isn't just about reputation or money anymore. It's about safety. If Laura, or whoever she's involved with, thinks they can intimidate me, they're in for a rude awakening. I call Mike, needing a sounding board. He answers on the first ring. What's up? He asks, his tone instantly serious. She's escalating, I tell him, explaining the vandalism and the mysterious phone call. I'm not sure how far she's willing to go. Mike is quiet for a moment before speaking. You've got to be careful, man. People like her, when they feel cornered, they get reckless. I'm not scared of her, I say, my voice firm, but I'm not taking any chances either. Over the next few days, I stay vigilant. The cameras catch nothing unusual, and the mysterious phone calls stop. But the tension doesn't ease. It feels like the calm before the storm. Then, on a quiet Sunday afternoon, the storm hits. I'm in the backyard, working on some repairs, when I hear a car screech to a halt in front of the house. I walk around to the front and see Laura standing there, her face flushed with anger. A man I don't recognize standing behind her. This isn't over, she screams, her voice carrying across the neighborhood. I step forward, keeping my distance. You're trespassing, Laura. Leave before I call the police. She laughs bitterly. Oh, call them. Let them see what kind of man you really are. The man behind her steps forward, his posture aggressive. You need to back off, he growls. I don't flinch. This is my property. You've got 10 seconds to leave. Laura smirks, pulling out her phone. Oh, don't worry. We'll leave. But not before everyone sees this. She starts recording, shouting accusations, wild, baseless claims meant to provoke a reaction. But I don't give her one. I stand there, arms crossed, letting her make a fool of herself. When she realizes she's not getting the response she wants, she storms back to the car, the man following her. As they drive off, I exhale, the adrenaline finally subsiding. This was her big play, a last-ditch effort to drag me down. But it didn't work. I've seen her hand, and it's empty. The sound of Laura's car screeching away leaves a tense silence in its wake. My neighbors peek through their curtains, some even stepping onto their porches to catch a glimpse of the commotion. I nod at a few familiar faces, a silent assurance that everything is under control, even if it doesn't feel that way. Back inside, I replay the scene in my mind. Her screaming, the strange man's thinly veiled threats. It's all escalating. This isn't about winning anymore. She's desperate to make me react, to give her some shred of ammunition she can use to justify her narrative. I grab my phone and call Karen, recounting every detail. She showed up at the house with some guy, I say, pacing the living room. She was screaming, recording, trying to provoke me. Karen's voice is calm, professional. You did the right thing by staying composed. Did she damage anything? No, just shouted a lot of nonsense. Good. Keep a record of everything. And if she shows up again, call the police immediately. I'm starting to think she wants me to call them, I say, my frustration bubbling to the surface. She's trying to play the victim. Let her try, Karen replies. We've got the evidence on our side. She's digging her own grave, and we'll make sure she gets buried in it. After hanging up, I checked the security footage. The camera captured everything: Laura's theatrics, her companion's aggressive stance, and their eventual retreat. I saved the file and sent it to both Karen and the PI. Every piece of evidence counts. The days that follow are quiet but uneasy. I keep expecting another outburst, another cryptic message or late-night visitor. But nothing comes. It's almost too quiet, like the eye of a storm. Then, on Thursday morning, the phone rings. It's the PI. We've identified the guy she was with, he says, his tone serious. His name's Ryan. He's got a record, mostly minor stuff, but there's a history of intimidation and harassment. Great, I mutter. So she's hanging around with a thug now. It looks that way, he says. We're keeping tabs on him, but be cautious. He's the type to escalate if pushed. The warning stays with me all day, a heavy weight in the back of my mind. Laura's anger is one thing, but adding someone like Ryan into the mix makes things feel more dangerous. I double-check the security system, making sure every camera and sensor is functioning perfectly. That night, as I sit in the kitchen nursing a glass of whiskey, my phone buzzes with another text. This one's from Laura, and it's oddly restrained compared to her previous messages. You think you're so smart, but you'll see. Everyone will see. I forward it to Karen without replying, the now familiar routine almost automatic. It's another empty threat, another attempt to get under my skin. But this time, it feels different, calculated, like she's planning something bigger. The next day, I get a call from the PI again. We've uncovered something interesting, he says. Laura's been reaching out to people, old colleagues, mutual acquaintances, trying to dig up dirt on you. I laugh bitterly. Let her. She won't find anything. That's what we figured, he says. But it's clear she's trying to build a case against you, even if she has to fabricate it. The thought of Laura twisting the truth, dragging others into her schemes, fills me with a cold rage. She's not just attacking me now. She's trying to weaponize my own life against me. But she doesn't realize that the tighter she grips, the more the truth slips through her fingers. By the weekend, it becomes clear that her plan is falling apart. Karen calls with good news. The media has picked up on the evidence we provided, and the narrative is shifting even further in my favor. Articles now focus on Laura's deceit, her attempts to manipulate the situation, and her increasingly erratic behavior. She's losing ground, Karen says. The more she tries to fight, the worse she looks. I nod, feeling a sense of relief but knowing this isn't over yet. Laura is like a cornered animal, dangerous, unpredictable, and willing to lash out in any way she can. As the week draws to a close, I brace myself for whatever comes next. The storm isn't over, but for the first time, I feel like I'm ready for it. The week passes in uneasy calm. Laura's silence is uncharacteristic, almost eerie, but I know better than to let my guard down. Every move she's made so far has been calculated, even in its chaos. If she's quiet now, it means she's planning something. Saturday morning brings a knock at the door. I glance at the camera feed. It's a delivery driver, holding a small package. Nothing suspicious, but given the circumstances, I approach the door cautiously. The package is addressed to me, with no return address. I hesitate before opening it, but my curiosity wins out. Inside is a USB drive, wrapped in a single sheet of paper with a handwritten note. The truth always comes out. I stare at it for a moment, the unease in my stomach growing. What is this? Another empty threat? A trap? I plug the drive into my laptop, making sure to isolate it from any network just in case it's something malicious. The screen opens to a single video file. I click play, and my heart sinks. It's a recording of a heated argument between Laura and me from months ago, before everything came to light. Her voice is raised, mine even louder. Out of context, it looks bad. Her crying, me pacing and shouting. She's edited the video to cut out her provocations, leaving only my most frustrated, angry moments. I sit back, exhaling sharply. This is her next move, painting me as the aggressor. It's not just an attack on my character. It's an attempt to flip the narrative entirely. But what she doesn't know is that I have the unedited footage saved from my own cameras. I call Karen immediately, forwarding the video to her. She's trying to frame me, I say, pacing the kitchen. She sent me this edited clip to make me look like the bad guy. Karen's voice is calm, but there's an edge to it. Let her try. We'll release the full footage if she makes this public. This is a desperate move, and it's going to backfire. As the day goes on, I keep checking the news, waiting for the video to surface. It doesn't take long. By evening, it's making the rounds on social media, shared by anonymous accounts clearly linked to Laura. The captions are damning, a glimpse behind closed doors. What he didn't want you to see. The comments are a mix of outrage and skepticism. Some believe the narrative she's spinning, others demand proof. I take a deep breath, steadying myself. This is the moment Karen prepared me for. By the next morning, Karen's team has released the unedited footage, along with a statement detailing Laura's history of manipulation and deceit. The contrast between the two videos is stark. The public backlash against Laura is immediate and brutal. She's sunk herself, Karen tells me over the phone. This isn't just about the divorce anymore. She's opened herself up to potential legal action for defamation. I nod, but the relief is fleeting. Laura's moves are getting more reckless, more personal. She's not just trying to win. She's trying to destroy me, and she's willing to go down in flames to do it. That night, as I sit on the porch watching the sunset, my phone buzzes with a message from Mike. Saw the video drama. You okay? I reply with a brief, I'm fine. But the truth is, I'm exhausted. Every step forward feels like a battle, and I'm tired of fighting. But I can't stop now. Laura's not just a threat to me anymore. She's a danger to herself, and maybe even others. I glance at the cameras one more time before heading inside, making sure everything is secure. As I lock the door behind me, I can't shake the feeling that the storm is far from over. The fallout from Laura's attempt to frame me is swift and brutal. Public opinion, already leaning against her, turns completely. Social media erupts with posts exposing her manipulations, memes mocking her failed schemes, and hashtags like #LyingLaura trending for days. Karen's team is relentless, making sure the truth is out there, leaving no room for doubt. But Laura doesn't disappear. She doubles down. A few days later, my phone buzzes with a message from an unknown number. It's a screenshot of an email thread, fabricated, of course, between me and a woman I've never met. The emails paint me as some kind of manipulative predator, preying on vulnerable women. The accusation is absurd, but the implications are dangerous. Laura is trying to destroy not just my reputation but my career. I forward the screenshot to Karen immediately, my jaw tight as I type. She's trying to fabricate evidence now. We need to stop her. Karen calls me within minutes, her voice calm but firm. This is serious, but it's also sloppy. She's panicking, and it shows. Let's get ahead of this. I take a deep breath, forcing myself to focus. What's the next move? We'll have our forensic team analyze the screenshot. If it's fake, and I'm sure it is, they'll prove it. In the meantime, don't engage. Let us handle this. Her words are reassuring, but the tension lingers. I can't shake the feeling that Laura is spiraling out of control, and her desperation makes her dangerous. That night, I sit in the living room, staring at the blank TV screen. The house feels too quiet, too empty. For a moment, I let my mind wander to the past, the good times with Laura, before everything fell apart. But the memories feel distant, almost like they belong to someone else. A notification from the security system pulls me back to the present. There's movement at the back gate. My pulse quickens as I grab my phone, pulling up the live feed. The figure is wearing a hoodie, their face obscured, but this time, they're not just lingering. They're trying to force the gate open. I don't hesitate. I grab my phone and call the police, keeping my eyes on the screen as the figure struggles with the lock. The floodlights come on, startling them. They freeze for a moment, then take off, disappearing into the night. When the police arrive, I show them the footage. They take it seriously, promising to increase patrols in the area. But their words do little to ease the knot in my stomach. This isn't random. Someone is targeting me. Whether it's Laura or someone working for her, I don't know. But it's clear they're escalating. The next day, I get a call from the PI. We've traced the email thread she sent you, he says. It's a fake, just like we suspected. The IP address links back to her apartment. I let out a bitter laugh. Of course it does. What now? Now, we build the case. Between this and the vandalism, we've got enough to file a restraining order. If she keeps pushing, we'll have grounds for criminal charges. The idea of holding her accountable gives me some satisfaction, but it's tempered by the reality of the situation. Laura isn't just trying to hurt me anymore. She's trying to ruin everything I've built. And she won't stop until she's stopped. That evening, as I sit in the kitchen reviewing the security footage again, I realize something. This isn't just about protecting myself anymore. It's about sending a message. If Laura wants to play dirty, I'll show her what it means to lose everything. The following morning, I meet with Karen in her office. She's already reviewing the evidence, the fake email thread, the footage from my security cameras, and the text messages Laura sent. Her desk is covered in files and notes, a testament to how deeply this battle has escalated. We have more than enough to file a restraining order, she says, her tone sharp and decisive. And if she violates it, we'll move forward with criminal charges. She's crossed too many lines. I nod, my jaw tight. Do it. Whatever it takes to end this. Karen leans forward, her eyes locking onto mine. You need to be prepared. People like Laura don't just stop because of legal paperwork. If she feels cornered, she might get even more reckless. I'm ready, I say, though the weight of her words settles heavily on my shoulders. By the afternoon, the restraining order is filed. Karen assures me that Laura will be served within the next 24 hours. It feels like a step in the right direction, but the tension remains. Laura has shown she's willing to go to extremes, and I know this isn't the end. That evening, I call Mike, needing to vent. She's spiraling, man. I tell him, pacing the living room. Every move she makes is more desperate than the last. Which means she's losing, Mike replies, his voice steady. You've got her on the ropes. Just keep your head down and let Karen handle the rest. I'm trying, I say, exhaling sharply. But it feels like I'm constantly looking over my shoulder. You've got every reason to, Mike says. But don't forget, you're not the one who should be scared. She is. The next morning, the call comes earlier than I expect. It's Karen, and her tone is brisk. She's been served, she says, but she didn't take it well. What does that mean? I ask, my stomach tightening. She made a scene, Karen replies. Screaming, threatening. She even tried to grab the paperwork out of the server's hands. We've got it all documented. The news doesn't surprise me, but it leaves me uneasy. If Laura's reaction to being served is this volatile, I can only imagine what her next move will be. I double-check the security system again, making sure every camera is working, every lock secure. That night, the tension finally boils over. It's late, past midnight, when an alert from the security system jolts me awake. Someone's at the back gate again. My heart pounds as I grab my phone, pulling up the live feed. It's Laura. She's alone this time, her face illuminated by the floodlights. She's shouting, though the cameras don't pick up the words. In her hand, she's holding something. A stack of papers? A folder? I can't tell. She's pacing, gesturing wildly, as if arguing with someone who isn't there. I call the police, my voice calm but firm. She's here, at the back gate, violating the restraining order. The operator assures me that officers are on their way. I stay on the line, watching as Laura continues her erratic display. She throws the papers onto the ground, scattering them across the driveway before storming off into the night. When the police arrive, they collect the papers as evidence. One of the officers, a stern-looking man in his 40s, shakes his head as he examines the scene. She's losing it, he says. If she shows up again, don't hesitate to call. As they drive away, I stand in the driveway, staring at the scattered papers. They're printed screenshots, photos, and handwritten notes. All nonsense, meant to make me look like the villain. It's another desperate move, another failed attempt to control the narrative. But as I gather the papers, a new thought occurs to me. If she's this far gone, she might not stop until she's forced to. And that means I need to be ready for anything. The following days blur into a haze of tension and anticipation. I review the security footage again, studying every frame as though it holds the key to understanding Laura's next move. The papers she scattered across the driveway weren't just random rants. They were deliberate, pointed attacks, designed to make me look like a man on the edge. The more I look at them, the more I realize this isn't just about revenge for her. She's trying to drag me back into the chaos she created, hoping I'll slip up. I send everything to Karen for safekeeping, and we discuss next steps. We need to stay one step ahead, Karen advises. If she's willing to do this publicly, we need to make sure we control the narrative from here on out. Her words settle into me like a weight. Laura's done everything she can to make me the bad guy. If this continues, the only way to end it is to expose the truth in its entirety. No half measures, no compromises. Mike comes over the next afternoon, his presence a welcome distraction. "You holding up?" he asks, grabbing a beer from the fridge and taking a seat. "Yeah, I'm fine," I reply, trying to shake off the constant weight of the situation. Just tired of it. Tired of her trying to drag me through the mud. Mike doesn't miss a beat. "She's trying to destroy you, man. You've done everything right. Now, you've got to let Karen do her thing and finish this." "I know," I say, though the doubt still lingers in my mind. But it feels like there's always another shoe to drop, like she won't let it end. "Because she won't," Mike says bluntly. "She's not going to stop until you've got nothing left. But that's not going to happen. You've got this. You've got the truth and the law on your side." I sip my beer, staring out at the backyard. Mike's words hit harder than I expect. I've been focused on surviving this, but it's not just about that. It's about reclaiming control, about making sure this nightmare ends on my terms. That night, I'm home alone, still mulling over Mike's words, when my phone buzzes. Another unknown number. This time, I don't hesitate. "Hello?" I answer, my tone sharp. "You think you've won, don't you?" It's Laura. Her voice is shrill, frantic. "You think the world is on your side, but you'll see. You'll see that I won't let you destroy me." I stay silent, my fingers gripping the phone as she rants. "You're just like all the others," she continues, her words tumbling out in a frantic rush. "You're nothing but a liar, a manipulator, and everyone will know it. You'll regret ever crossing me." "Is that what this is?" I ask, my voice controlled despite the fire building inside me. "You're threatening me now?" "You'll regret it," she spits. "You'll see. You've made a big mistake. A huge mistake." She hangs up before I can respond, leaving me with a phone line full of dead air. I stand there for a moment, the anger boiling inside me, but I refuse to let it control me. This isn't about her anymore. It's about me finishing this once and for all. I call Karen, giving her the details of the phone call. "She's pushing harder now," I say, "and I'm starting to think she's not going to back down." Karen is quiet for a moment, then speaks with an assured calmness. "She's out of control, but you're in control here. Keep your head on straight. We'll take care of this." The weight of her words settles over me like a shield. For the first time in weeks, I feel like I have a clear path ahead. I don't know what Laura will do next, but I know one thing for sure. She's on her last leg, and I'm not going down without making sure she faces the consequences of her actions. The next morning, I get another unexpected call. This time, it's from the police. "We've got an update," the officer says. "We found something that might be related to the recent incidents." My heart races. "What is it?" "We're not sure yet, but we've tracked down some information that connects Laura to someone who might have been helping her, someone with a history of intimidation and harassment. We're investigating." The news sends a fresh wave of dread through me, but there's also a sense of relief. If Laura's involved someone else, maybe this will finally be the breaking point. The fact that the police are taking this seriously, digging deeper into her connections, feels like the first real crack in her facade. I send a quick text to Karen to update her, and she responds almost immediately. "This is good news. Let's see what they find." I can't help but wonder, just how much longer will Laura push before it all unravels? I'm done being her pawn. It's time for her to face the consequences. The days that follow are filled with tension, each one inching closer to some inevitable confrontation. The police investigation into Laura's accomplice seems promising, but it's moving slower than I'd hoped. Meanwhile, Karen and her team are building an airtight case against Laura, preparing for what she's sure will be her next desperate move. Then, late one evening, the call comes. It's Karen. They found him, she says, her voice steady but urgent. The man who's been helping her. Ryan, the guy who showed up at your house before. What did they find? I ask, gripping the phone tighter. They brought him in for questioning, and he started talking, Karen explains. He's been working with Laura, helping her with the fake emails, the vandalism, everything. And he's admitted to more. He said she was planning something bigger. A chill runs down my spine. Bigger? What does that mean? Karen pauses before answering, her tone careful. It's not clear yet, but he mentioned something about exposing you publicly, possibly involving false accusations. He claims he didn't know all the details, just that Laura promised it would ruin you. I sit down heavily, the weight of her words pressing into me. So what now? Now we bring this to the police and let them do their job, Karen says firmly. This is the break we've been waiting for. If Ryan cooperates, we can build a case against her for harassment, defamation, and possibly even conspiracy. Her confidence is reassuring, but my mind is racing. Laura's desperation has already pushed her to dangerous lengths. If this is what she's capable of with help, what happens when she's completely cornered? The next day, I meet with Karen and the PI to go over the evidence. The case is solid. Every move Laura has made is meticulously documented, from the fake emails to the vandalism, the threats, and now her involvement with Ryan. The restraining order violations alone are enough to bring legal action, but Karen wants to push for more. She's crossed every line, Karen says, flipping through the file. We're not just going to stop her. We're going to make sure she's held accountable for every single thing she's done. Her words light a fire in me. For weeks, I felt like I was on the defensive, reacting to Laura's schemes and threats. But now, it feels like the tide is turning. It's no longer just about surviving this. It's about ending it. That evening, as I sit in the living room going over the details of the case, there's a knock at the door. My heart leaps into my throat. I glance at the security feed. It's Laura. Alone this time, her face pale and drawn. I hesitate, then decide to answer. I need to face her one last time. I open the door, stepping out onto the porch and closing it behind me. What do you want, Laura? She stares at me, her eyes wide and desperate. I need to talk to you, she says, her voice trembling. Please, just hear me out. I cross my arms, keeping my voice steady. You've done enough talking, Laura. This ends now. Tears well in her eyes, but I don't flinch. You don't understand, she says, her voice rising. You're trying to destroy me, but I'm not the villain here. You are. You made me do this. I shake my head, my patience wearing thin. You made your choices, Laura. No one forced you to cheat, to lie, to manipulate. This is all on you. She takes a step closer, her voice breaking. I loved you, you know. I really did. But you never saw me. You never. Enough, I say sharply, cutting her off. This isn't about love, or us, or whatever story you're trying to tell yourself. This is about the truth. And the truth is, you've hurt a lot of people, me included, and it's time you faced the consequences. For a moment, she looks like she might argue. But then she steps back, her shoulders slumping. You'll regret this, she says quietly, her voice hollow. You'll see. I watch as she walks away, disappearing into the night. The tension in my chest doesn't ease until the sound of her car fades into silence. Back inside, I sit down and take a deep breath. This feels like the final chapter, the last desperate act of someone who knows they've lost. But even as relief starts to creep in, I can't shake the feeling that there's still one more move left in this game. The next morning dawns calm, almost serene. For the first time in weeks, I feel a sliver of hope that this nightmare might finally be nearing its end. Laura's late-night visit felt like a last gasp, her final attempt to claw back some semblance of control. But her words still linger in my mind. You'll regret this. You'll see. Karen calls just after breakfast with news that makes everything feel more real. Ryan has agreed to testify against Laura, she says, her tone triumphant. He's turning over all the evidence he has, emails, text messages, even recordings of their conversations. My grip on the phone tightens. So, it's over? It's close, Karen replies. This will give the police everything they need to press charges. She won't be able to talk her way out of this. The relief that washes over me is overwhelming, but it's tempered by the realization of what comes next. Laura is about to face the full weight of her actions, and as much as she deserves it, a part of me feels hollow. This was a woman I once loved, someone I thought I'd spend my life with. Now, she's just a cautionary tale. That afternoon, the police come to my house to take my formal statement. The officer in charge assures me that Laura will be arrested soon, and they'll keep me informed every step of the way. I nod, thanking him, but the knot in my stomach doesn't fully ease. This isn't just about justice, it's about closure, and I'm not sure if I'll ever truly have it. The call comes that evening. Laura has been arrested. Karen calls to confirm it, her voice laced with satisfaction. She's being charged with harassment, defamation, and conspiracy, she says. With Ryan's testimony and the evidence we've provided, there's no way she can talk her way out of this. I hang up and sit in the quiet house, the reality of it all sinking in. It's over. The fight, the chaos, the constant tension, it's all done. But as I look around the house, the memories of our life together still lingering in every corner, I realize that this isn't the end. It's just the beginning of something new. The weeks that follow are a blur of legal proceedings and media coverage. Laura's downfall becomes a public spectacle, her lies and schemes exposed for all to see. People who once believed her stories turn against her, and the narrative shifts completely. For the first time in months, I feel like I can breathe. But it's not just about winning the battle. It's about reclaiming my life. I start focusing on rebuilding, fixing up the house, reconnecting with friends, and finding joy in the little things I'd forgotten about during the chaos. Mike is a constant presence, dragging me out to grab drinks or catch a game, reminding me that life goes on. One evening, as I sit on the porch watching the sunset, my phone buzzes with a text from Karen. It's done. She took a plea deal. No trial. I stare at the screen for a moment, the weight of her words sinking in. It's truly over. Laura has finally accepted the consequences of her actions. She's out of my life for good. I set the phone down and take a deep breath, the tension in my chest finally easing. The storm has passed, and for the first time in what feels like forever, the future feels bright. I raise a glass of whiskey to the fading light, a quiet toast to survival, resilience, and the promise of better days ahead. The fight may be over, but the lessons will stay with me. I've learned the hard way to trust my instincts, to stand up for myself, and to never let someone else define my worth. As the last rays of sunlight fade into the horizon, I feel a sense of peace I haven't known in months. And with that, I let it all go. If you've ever faced betrayal, chaos, or a fight for your own truth, share your story in the comments below. How did you handle it? What lessons did you learn? Let's connect and support each other. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more gripping tales of resilience, justice, and redemption. Hit the bell icon to stay updated with our latest stories. Your support means everything. Thank you for watching, and remember, no matter how dark the storm, the light always returns.